Yeah, so in this video I'll be showing you how to draft the African Iro and Buba, the Oleku version, with no pattern at all. I mean, anybody can literally make this Iro and Buba. Anybody can literally make this attire, whether you are a professional fashion designer, a beginner, or you don't even have any knowledge of fashion designing at all. You can make this attire. Okay, so before we go into the video, please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, give it a thumbs up. Remember to drop a comment, say something, let us know you are following, say something, and subscribe, put on the notification button so you can know when we drop the next video. All right, so let's jump right into it. So basically all you need is your fabric, you need your scissors, you need your tailor's chalk, any kind of tailor's chalk or anything you can use to mark is fine, and then you need your measuring tape. So these are regular things that you can find around the house. And with me here I have 4 yards of Ankara fabric, and you also need your measurements. So your measurements, what you need for your measurements is just the length of the buba. So the buba is the upper part, like a blouse. You need your sleeve length. So because we are doing the Oleku version, the sleeve length is always shorter than the regular Iro and Buba. You need the wrapper length. So the wrapper length as well is not from your waist to floor length. It is Oleku. Oleku always it's attributed with short sleeve and short wrapper. Okay, and then of course you need your bust circumference. That is all you need to make your Iro and Buba. Okay, so let me give you a brief explanation to what this is. So the Oleku version of the Oleku is just like let's say a nickname or a name that was given to the regular Iro and Buba. The regular Iro and Buba is an African attire that women wear majorly. So women between middle age, youth, you know, they wear majorly, and they used to wear it. It was rampant so much in the olden days. That was their traditional wear. That, in fact, that was the style they had. Not now that everybody is now doing ashrebi styles, you know, but that was the design they had as at that time. You would see, so if you watch movies that are shot in the village, you tend to see this kind of attire on them because they try to remind you of the kind of fashion they had at that time. Okay, so fashion was evolving. They wanted to bring back this attire, which is the Iro and Buba, and so because we wanted it wanted to add a little bit of trend to it, and I think that was why it was transformed and given the Oleku version. So the Oleku version, like I said, basically is attributed with short sleeve and short wrapper. So majorly the original Iro and Buba comes with long sleeve almost to the wrist, and long wrapper. So the long wrapper is on the shoulder, it's on the waist, sorry, to the ankle. All right, so the buba is like the blouse for the Iro. So Iro is a Yoruba word. I think buba is a Yoruba word as well. Yoruba is a language in Nigeria. Okay, so the buba is like a blouse. It's like a blouse that you wear. It's a free blouse. So you notice we didn't take the waist measurements here because there's no snatching here, there's no tightening or anything. So you just need the bust measurements basically, and that's what you're using for the waist. All right, so you're using the bust measurement for the bust and the waist. All right, so it's a free blouse. I told you it's an olden days design, so they were not really concerned about contouring the body or bringing out some shapes. They were just natural gang you know, kind of people. All right, but yeah, we can always bring back the olden days into our modern day. All right, so you can, it's a free dress, it's a free blouse basically, and then the Iro is just the wrapper. Iro in Yoruba means, in English means wrapper. Okay, so it's just a wrapper you tie around your waist. That's just it basically, and this takes just few minutes to make. Cutting and sewing just takes few minutes, probably because I'm explaining, might take a lot of time. but it takes just few minutes. It's something you can just cut and then you just sew immediately, because you're just like cutting and you're just hemming and joining. No special joining or no special turning. And of course, for this kind of design, you don't need lining. What did I say? You do not need lining. All right, let's get to it. So I have 4 yards of fabric. Yeah, you can use more than that if you want, depending on the style, depending on the size of the person you are working with. So I just got this 4 yards. Let's see if I'll have some left. I'm working with a size 8. Size 8 basically has the bust of 30. So the bust is 34. So on my bust circumference here I have 36. So that 36 comes with some ease, like it's an excess. The actual bust of this person is 34 inches, but I just added some ease because, like I said, the buba is a free garment. It's not very fitted. Okay, it's very free. Not very free, but it's free. It's not clinging to the body. All right, so the first thing you want to do is to open up your fabric. Open up. So we are choosing where we want first. So what I'm going to start with is the wrapper. So you would have asked, why not cut the buba first? The buba, remember I said, is like the blouse, but it's better to cut the wrapper first because the wrapper takes more of the fabric. Okay, the wrapper takes more of the fabric, so it's better for you to cut the one. This is a basic thing in fashion designing. When cutting your fabric, cut the biggest. If you're working with pattern, cut the biggest pattern first. If you're working with directly on your fabric, cut the one with the biggest measurement. So for the wrapper length, I already know my wrapper length, but I don't know the width of my wrapper. So basically in doing this, you just need there are 2 ways to do it. So you can take the person's hip measurement, right? You can take the person's hip measurement and multiply it by 2. So when you multiply by 2, it means that when the person is tying the wrapper, you want it to go twice on their body. Or you can multiply it by 1.5. You can multiply by 1.5. So depending on the quantity of fabric you have or how you want it to go around the person's body. So you can multiply by 1.5 or you can just multiply by 2. So that's their hip divided, their hip multiplied by 1.5 or their hip multiplied by 2. Another thing that people do is, if it's a medium size hip, between maybe hip 34 inches, 36, 38 to 38, they can just cut out 2 yards or 1.5 yards, which is almost the same as what I've said. A yard is 36 inches. So if you are cutting 2 yards, that is 72. If you are cutting 1.5 yard, that is 36 plus 18. Okay, so do the math. So some do it that way, but if you're working with a big hip, let's say hip 40 and above, they can use 2.5 yards. 2.5 yards. So the first thing I said is, if you're working with a small hip or medium hip between 34, 36, 38 inches, you can just cut out 1.5 yards of fabric or 2 yards of fabric if you want it so much. 2 yards of fabric. But if you are working with a bigger hip, the bigger the hip, the more fabric it has to go around the body. So you can do 2 yards or 2.5 yards. But I like to majorly to do the hip multiplied by 1.5 because that is safer. Whatever the person's hip is, if I do 1.5 hip multiplied by 1.5, it means that the fabric will go around their body once and then half of their body again, which is safe. Or if I do hip multiplied by 2, it means the fabric will go around their body twice. Okay, so you can do whichever one works for you. However, so I already chose the one that works for me. All right, so the first thing I want to do, so the wrapper length I have here is 24, and I'll be doing the hip multiplied by 2. Yes, let's do hip multiplied by 2. So if you don't have enough fabric, I want this to go around my body twice. That's why I'm doing hip multiplied by 2. But you can, hip multiplied by 1.5 is safe. It's safe and you can really use that. but I want it to go around my body twice, so that's why I'm doing that. So because I'm not using the full length as well, I'll measure the wrapper length. So I have to fold this by, I'll just measure. So my hip is 36. My hip is 36, and I'll just measure 36 twice along the selvage area. This is the selvage area where you have the white and black line. That's the selvage area. So I'll just measure my hip twice, or you can just use your calculator and then do it. But if not, just figure to work with. So this is 36, and please don't say you want to, well, you can also use the fold anyway, but if you use the fold, there's always a fold that comes with in Ankara. That's the fold in which they use in folding the fabric, but that fold is not always up to 36 inches. But I want to use it, right? I want to use it. So if I'm using my hip multiplied by 2, then I have enough to work with, so it won't really affect me. But if you don't want to take the risk, please measure your hip divided by 2. Then one other thing again is, because you'll be hemming this part of your wrapper, you might say, oh, you want to put sewing allowance, but remember I said I have excess already since I'm doing my hip multiplied by 2, so I have excess to work with. So when I fold, I can remove the fold from the excess, okay, so that at the end of the day what I'm having left is almost like my hip multiplied by 1.5. But if you want to use your hip multiplied by 1.5, just add your seam allowance, okay? Seam allowance is what you press by the side to close in the rough edges. All right, so let's get cutting. We've said a lot. All right, so I just brought out my 2 yards. I cut out my 2 yards, and this is my 2 yards. So I have 2 yards left. I just put it by the side. So let me just fold this. So I am working in a really small place. So let me just fold up my wrapper along. I'm folding it up along the yard, okay? So if you have a very big table, you might not need to fold. I'll just fold in so that what I'm doing could really contain the table, okay? So this is 2 yards. So I have the width of my fabric, the width of my wrapper, sorry. I have the width of my wrapper already, so I need the length of my wrapper now. So based on the measurement, when you want to measure, you can just measure from the person's true waistline. So the part where the waist dips when they bend to one side, that's the true waistline. From the true waistline to their knee, and some might want to say bit below the knee. So if you want to say bit below the knee, let it not be more than 2 inches below the knee, okay? And some might want it above their knee. So basically wherever your client wants it to be. But in this case, my wrapper length is 24 inches. So I can mark, I'm measuring from here, and this is 24 inches, okay? I hope you can see the mark. And I'll be adding 2 inches to it. Why? That's the sewing allowance. So sewing allowance to turn this in at the lower part, and then to turn this in at the upper part. And then remember that when you are measuring, right, because it's a wrapper, you might tend, when tying it around your body, you might tend to squeeze some fabric up along the waist when tying. Like, you might not tie straight enough, you might tend to squeeze. Plus, if it's too long, they can actually drag it up, but if it's too short, there could be an issue, because you don't want your fabrics to just have joining. You don't want your wrapper coming with joining, it doesn't look so nice. But if it's too long, it's still better than for it to be too short. So I could add 2 inches. However, my 2 inches is 1 inch sewing allowance here and 1 inch sewing allowance at the upper part, okay? So that basically means that my 24 inches comes with all the folding up. I've measured this with it. Plus, just in case I don't sew up the entire 2 inches I just added, just in case I just fold the lower part by ½ inch and the upper part by 1 inch, so I still have something to fold up. The wrapper cannot be too, in fact, even if it's too long and you don't want to fold it up or in, you can always cut it out. Okay, you can always cut it out, but it's always better for your wrapper to be long than for it to be short. Okay, so now we can cut. All right, so now this is my wrapper. So all I need to do to finish off this wrapper is to press this place in, just aim it this way, and run my sewing machine through it, then this side as well and the other side, just run it through it. Then here I could just fold this once, and if you want to fold it twice, then that's fine, and that's all. You can also add rope. So for those who don't really know how to tie wrapper well, you can make a rope and just attach it to this point, and tie it together, and your wrapper is ready. All right, so we are done cutting the wrapper. So this is the remaining fabric that left from the wrapper. Okay, remember my wrapper is short, so I could always use this to make the sleeve. I could use it to, so most times that's what people use. You can use it to make the sleeve. All right, you can use it to make the sleeve. And one other measurement I think we forgot is the round sleeve, the size of the sleeve. So round sleeve, you can just, of course the round sleeve is not tight, it's not fitted though, depending on how wide you want it. Buba sleeve is always very wide. All right, so I could do 15 inches. I don't know if we can see it, but this is it. I could do 15 inches, I could do 14. So it's 15 all round. I want to do 15. If it's too wide, I can reduce it after sewing. Okay, so this is 15. So I could, instead of cutting this twice, because of course I need 2 sleeves, so I could fold both twice. So I could just have a wide fold this way. I'm measuring the whole 15 on one side, and I want to add excess, so I have enough now. I folded into 4. Can you see what I did? I already folded here, just because I want to cut both together. I want to cut both sleeves together, so I want to fold into 4. Okay, so the part where I have the two folds without joining, here I also have fold here, but there's a cut around here, so I don't need that part. I need this part. Okay, so I ensure that it's rightly folded. And remember I said I am using 15, so 15 is my round width, but this is into 4, so I have to divide it by 2. So it means I'm cutting 2 sleeves, and each of the 2 sleeves is folded. It's not round. I don't know if you understand. It's folded. So because it's folded, I need to use half of my round sleeve. My round sleeve is 15. Half of it is what? Half of it is 7.5. Okay, so I'll just mark 7.5, and I'll add just 1 inch for sewing allowance. Okay, I can do the same thing here, 7.5, and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. Do the same thing here, 7.5 and 1 inch for sewing allowance. Okay, always remember your sewing allowance, so that you can, sewing allowance is what I use to join the fabrics together. Okay, and then I can measure the sleeve length. So after the sleeve length I have is 10 inches, so that's what the measurement I took on my body, and that's also what I want, 10 inches. So I mark 10 inches. So after you mark 10 inches, you need 3 inches extra. So you want to ask me what the 3 inches extra is for. So the 3 inches extra is for turning in the hem of your sleeve, and for some people they do like 3.5 inches. So turning in, so the turning in on the sleeve is not just the tiny narrow turning, that's for the hemming. It's always wide. you know, like the stitch line is always about 3 inches or 2.5 inch away from the actual hem. So after measuring my 2 inches, I can now put in my after measuring my 10 inches, sorry, I can now put in my 3 inches. If you also want to do 3.5, it's fine. And I'll mark, okay, and then now I can cut. Okay, so this can, I can add it to my gele. That's my headgear. Okay, so this would be the side where I join to the body, and this would be where we enter my sleeve. The reason why I'm doing that is so that I can make use of this edge that is not loose. So by the time I'm folding, I'm just folding my 3 inches and then I'm stitching on this part. I don't need to double fold like this. I don't need to double fold like this because this place is not a rough edge. So all I need to do now is to mark. So because this is on fold, I want to mark the center of the sleeve so I'll know how to join it on my body. Okay, so now let's move to the buba. The length of my buba is 22 inches. You also want, so you want to add sewing allowance. You need sewing allowance only at the hem. Buba doesn't have a shoulder joining. Buba doesn't have a shoulder joining. Okay, so you see why that is. So buba, my buba length is 22 inches. I want to add 1 inch just to hem it at the below the waistline. So that's 23 inches. So I have this 23 inches here. I'm not going to drop it because I want to fold it this way. I'm folding it this way. You can, if you have a pin, you can pin it down. If not, it's fine. But let's pin it down just so that it doesn't shift, okay? Alright, so after you're done pinning, you want to also do the same thing for the other side of your selvage. So I measured 23 there. I'll measure 23 here. So the reason why I'm doing for the other side is just so I can get the correct fold. So I'm not folding wrongly, okay? So now with that, I can easily pick up my fold. Can you see that? So I can easily pick up my fold. So you can use your hand to smoothen out the fold because we are going to fold again. So I'm going to fold so I folded this way first, and then I'm now folding. I folded downwards and now I'm folding towards my side now. So that means for your buba, you need to fold 4 times. You need to fold how many times? 4 times. Okay, and ensure you're folding accurately. Ensure you're folding. I like to first fold on the part that does not have the rough edge here. The part that does not have the rough edge here, so that by the time I fold again, I can easily see this rough edge. So it guides me in knowing how I'm cutting. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, are you with me? Have you been getting it so far? Like I said earlier, please remember to subscribe to this channel, so you can get more amazing videos. If you've not done that and you've watched the video to this point, please, Abba, why are you doing this? If you're enjoying the video and you didn't subscribe, just click the subscription button now. You can see it staring at you. Just click on it right now. Okay, have you done that? All right, now we can proceed. Okay, so my bust circumference is 36 inches. Like I told you before, that 36 inches already comes with ease, means that it is not the fitted measurement. So the fitted measurement is actually 34 inches. I only added 2 inches extra. So that 36, you will need to divide it by 4. Why are we dividing by 4? Because we have our fabric folded into 4. So it means that we've divided the body into 4, 2 parts for the back and 2 parts for the front. Okay, 2 parts for the back and 2 parts for the front. Do you get that? All right, so 36 divided by 4 will give us what? Will give us 9. All right, so I'll just mark 9. So if I'm marking 9 and then I'll be putting an allowance of just 1 inch. You can put 1.5 if you want to be on a safer side, but because I already have ease on my measurement, so that's why I'm not really doing so much. But so this is 10 basically. So 36 divided by 4 is 9, and I'm adding 1 inch, which makes it 10. Okay, let's add 1.5 inch. Let's add 1.5 inch. So I just want it to be exact. I don't want to waste my fabric, so I keep folding back. I mean, I don't want to waste my fabric. So let me just fold back a little bit, and then I think I should have a 10.5. Yes, I have 10.5 now. So just measure 10.5. So I didn't need to mark because that was the exact thing I folded. Okay, so I'm just going to cut through this part and this part. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we have. This is what we have, like a rectangle. Let me fold it back. So the next step, which is like the last step you need to do, is to bring out your neckline. Okay, so not the last step, but bring out your neckline. So this part, now this is your shoulder area. It might look confusing to you, but let me explain. This is like your shoulder area. Of course, beside your shoulder is where you have your neckline. So this fold must come in two, meaning when I open this, my neckline can be here, and this is shoulder for one side, shoulder for the other side. Okay, so let me just cut out the neckline. So your neckline is based on what you want. You can use 3 inches by 3 inches. That's like the basic. You can use 4 inches by 4 inches. If you want it very wide, just go as wide as you want. But here I want to use 4 inches by 4 inches. And then remember that this is going to end up being 4.5, because when I turn the neckline, okay, I don't even want 4 inches by 4 inches. Let me just do ½ inch sewing allowance, so that by the time I turn with ½ inch, I will be left with an opening of 4 inches. I hope you understand what I did. I measured here 4 inches, and I also measured here 4 inches. But then remember that if I do that, this is the round neck. So your neckline can either be square, V, round neck, anything you want. Okay, anything you want. So what I'm doing here would also appear at the back. Because this is front and back together. Remember I said there's no joining at the shoulder. The shoulder is actually on fold. So like I was explaining, if I leave it as 4 inches here, by the time I'm trying to turn the neckline to conceal the rough edge, I would have to sew in by 4 inches, which will bring the neckline down by ½ inch. But because I don't want that, I added back the ½ inch, so that by the time I am turning the neckline, I would be left with the actual 4 inches. Okay, all right, so of course I always like you to give a mark. We call this notching. So that's just identify, that's to help identify where I might be joining. I'll be using, so there are different ways in which, so you can see this is your neckline now. You can see this is your neckline now. I would also want to cut a facing. I want to cut a facing for this. So there are two ways in which you can turn your neckline. Either use a facing or use a bias tape. But I always like the finishing that the facing gives. So I prefer to use a facing. So remember the excess we had left from the sleeve. I will just use that to cut my facing. Okay, so the same way, of course, if you want to cut your facing, because this part is on fold, your facing has to be on fold too. So let's see how we can, manage the fabric. So I have to just place this under because this is what we want to cut. Okay, so you can also determine how wide you want the size of your facing to be. So I could do 2 inches or 2.5, so 2.5 is fine. And then also mark 2.5 on this side, so that's on the fabric under. Okay, so I'm placing the main fabric above it so that I can cut out this neckline. I can trace the neckline and cut it out. And then remember to notch the edge here. Notch the edge here. These notches make it easy for you when sewing. Just in case you're not a fan of notches, please try to be one. They are very important. So I will just, because I want my facing to be round as well, I'll just measure the 2.5 I have here. I'll measure it round. And I'll cut. And this is what I have left. This is what I have as my facing. For it's a together facing, which is front and back. So before I take this off, remember I said you can always add rope to your wrapper. Yes, so I also want to use this as a rope. The length of your rope could be anything. You just to tighten your wrapper together, making it easy to tie your wrapper. So let's do 20 inches. This is not standard measurement. You can really just use anything. In fact, you can use 10. Let's use 10. So I'll just cut 10, or let's use 15. Let's use 15. Let's use 15. You don't want your rope to be too long, really, so that it won't be dangling by the side. Of course, you can conceal it in. You can conceal it in your wrapper. So the width of my rope is 2 inches. When sewing, you will see how we'll fold it up. It's 2 inches, so I'll just cut that. So I placed it on fold because I'm cutting 2 rope at the same time. One for the right side, one for the left side. Okay, so I can open and pieces them, fold. All right, so this is my rope. So let's bring together all the pieces we have. This is my buba without sleeve. This is the facing. So the buba is of course front and back. Can you see that it's on fold? Then this is the neckline. This is the rope. This is my two sleeve. And this is my lovely wrapper. Okay, so you need you need the wrapper 1, the sleeve 2, the facing 3, the buba 4, and not compulsorily the rope 5. Okay, so yes, this is how to cut Iro and Buba. In the next video I'll be showing you how to put this together, how to sew it, you know, so you see how it really looks like and how traditional you can be. All right, see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, tell your friends about it. All right, goodbye.